Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're gonna make part 1 of, hopefully, my outfit for a festival that I'm going to. And I know it's festival season, so it's about time that we do something related to that. And I'm super excited. I am going to do a bit of a mixture of very basic and beginner friendly, and then with a twist, basically. You can see my mock-up that I did yesterday with my pattern already here on the bust. So as you can see, I'm gonna make a skirt, an A-line skirt, but it has a twist. Can you see that? It has cutouts. There we go. Heart-shaped cutouts. And I'm super excited to show you how I did this. And then in next week's episode, we're actually gonna make a heart-shaped top as the second piece for this outfit. So I'm not quite sure if I'm actually gonna have the guts to wear this, because the fabric that I chose is a bit in your face, and with a bit I mean a lot. It's this fabric right here. This is a pink velvet with an embossed or printed on brocade kind of pattern. So this is a lot, and as of right now I feel confident, but who knows what I feel like in 2 weeks time when it's actually time to go to the festival. But nevertheless, I felt like this was a good thing to make, as the cutout and the whole skirt itself is really cute on its own, independent from the top that we're gonna do next week, and also independent from a festival. You can obviously make this and wear this all the time, plus or minus the cutouts. These are optional, obviously, and the fit of the skirt itself is really cute. So let's just jump right into it. So let's have a closer look on the fabric that I chose. I already told you it's a velvet with this kind of brocade, very vintage looking pattern on it. This could be a wallpaper if you ask me. It's super fun. I'm in love with this sort of pattern. I used to have this actually as a wallpaper, not in pink and gold, but in white and gold in my bedroom in my last apartment. And I never stopped loving this kind of pattern. So I have this fabric, and I think it's gonna look super adorable as a skirt with these heart-shaped cutouts down here at the legs. I usually would suggest to add interfacing to all the facings and the waistband. Now my fabric is actually sort of a weird thing. This fabric, it already has interfacing on all over, the whole fabric. It has it ironed on already, because this velvet is actually a jersey, and they just made it a non-stretchy material with the interfacing and the stabilizer on the back. So I could potentially iron another layer of interfacing on this, but this is already stable enough, so I'm just not gonna do it. Instead, I used this interfacing tape that has a stay stitch running through the middle on the hem and the waistband seam and so on and so forth to stabilize these kind of seams. I suggest you, as you probably won't have this very weird specific fabric, you iron on interfacing to all the pattern pieces which have it stated on. So that means all of the facings and all of the waistband pieces, and then you're not going to have any issues while sewing or with the fit or anything. It's just going to look really professional. So the first thing that we're going to do is tackle the darts as per usual. So I drew on my darts onto the wrong side of the fabric, like so. I just traced it, and now I can use this to close my darts. So I'm putting right sides together here, and then I'm coming to a point, and I'm just gonna sew along, stitch along the drawn line right here on all the 4 darts, so also the 2 on the back and the 2 in the front. I'm going to iron the darts towards the side seam. And I personally can see with this fabric pretty well where my side seam is, because I know that the center back lays on the straight grain and the side seam lays a tiny bit on the bias. Not a perfect 45-degree angle, but it's diagonal. So I know that I have to iron it that way. And I think it's the best to already do the cutouts in the front, because now the front still lays like flat. And then we're also gonna do the back pockets as well. So as preparation for the front cutouts, which are gonna sit right here, we're going to put interfacing onto the spot where we're gonna have it. So in the pattern, we're gonna find the front cutout template, which we're gonna need, and then also we're gonna need the actual pattern piece to check the orientation. I don't know if you can see it here, but I can see the orientation of the heart, which goes, you know, it's a little bit on an angle. So that's what I used my front piece for. And I'm just gonna put this on here, just gonna trace it so that I know where to put my interfacing. This is specifically only for the interfacing placement. Everything else will be put onto the right side of your pattern. And now what I'm gonna do is take a tiny bit of interfacing, you know, that fits over top of the shape. Does not have to be perfect, it just needs to cover what you drew on, like this. And now you can press it on. So what I like to do now is actually draw on the placement of the cutouts onto the right side of the fabric as much as it's possible. What you can also do, I'm just noticing that it's probably so much easier if you just cut out this shape right here and then you can trace it. Yeah, this is so much easier. I don't know why I wasn't thinking about that for my tryout piece. Anyways, just trace out however you feel like. Trace out the heart shape onto the right side of your fabric. Oh, you can barely see it, but it's there, I promise. And what you'll need now are two pieces that are bigger than this heart. You can probably use like some scraps or something, and they don't need to be shaped as a heart, as it's just acting as facing, as we're gonna do a cutout. So I'm just gonna cut a piece of fabric that is a lot bigger than the heart shape. We're gonna trim it afterwards. So like this, another tracing, like that. And now we have two shapes that are gonna go on here. So what I will be doing now is to overlock like 1 centimeter higher than this. We're gonna probably have to cut this down. You're gonna have to go pretty close to the actual tip of the heart right here, because this is gonna get cut away basically. And everything else can be like a bit bigger. And I'm basically gonna cut a shape like this with my overlock machine fairly loosely around the shape here, so that we have a finished edge of these facing pieces on the inside as well, and everything is gonna look neat and tidy on the inside. And that's what it looks like. So now we can go ahead and pin these on where we marked them. And now we can go ahead and stitch on top of the drawn line and stitch around the shape of a heart on both sides. So what you want to do to get like the neatest result possible, especially with these like curves, and like a heart shape is not per se the easiest shape ever, is that you want to sew like 2 stitches, put your presser foot up, pivot a tiny bit, put your presser foot back down, sew another 2 stitches, put the presser foot back up, pivot, and repeat. That way you're gonna get like really, really neat curves that you can control, and that it does not wrinkle up your fabric, your layers of fabric. That way you get like the neatest result possible. That's what I always do. So now that the heart is stitched on, I will go ahead and fearlessly cut right inside the middle of my skirt, because we need to cut out the shape right here. And I'm gonna do that by cutting at about like the 3 millimeter mark, let's say. So you want to keep your seam allowance fairly small here, because we have a whole bunch of curves, and otherwise the heart won't turn right sides out nicely. And on top of that, I'm even going to cut towards the stitching line at the sharp curves to like make it sit even flatter once turned right sides out. Right here at the tip, I'm gonna cut this short. Down here, you have to cut towards the stitching line very carefully. Stop like a smidge right before the stitches. And as I said, I'm gonna cut towards the stitches here in the curve. Like so. And now let's turn this right sides out. Here at the tip, you're probably gonna have to use some sort of tool like this right here, so that you can like really get into the edge here and pop it out. And I'm gonna press it, and I'm gonna try to press the ditch of the seam to the wrong side of the fabric so that everything is gonna look very neat from the right side. And that is what it looks like from the right side. Now what you can do, and what I might do as well, is to stitch around here so that you're gonna fix the shape and the facing in place permanently, and that nothing like this is gonna happen at some point, you know, that the facing turns towards the right side. We want to avoid that. Or what you also can do instead of that, if you don't want to have visible top stitches, is to use like some sort of hem tape or fabric glue or something like that, that can fix the fabric onto the wrong side as well. I'm probably gonna try that. Just gonna take like small itty bitty pieces of hem tape and put this here. Yeah. This seems to work. I'm just gonna work a little bit more on it. Okay, so the skirt now is done here with the front cutouts. I managed to just glue it in place with hem tape. It worked pretty well, and it's very like secure, and I am pretty happy with how it looks like, so I won't be top stitching around it. Obviously you can do that, but I have other plans with embellishments here anyways, which we're going to do at the very end. Now let's continue with the back piece and the pockets, because I want to do pockets in the back, which are also heart-shaped. This is what they look like, and I already drew the outline of the heart in place here, and I'm gonna overlock around them. For that, I need to cut towards the point here so that I can actually like overlock and also iron this towards the inside then to have a neat edge. So let's do that really quickly. And I can go ahead now and also iron the seam allowance towards the inside, and I will be using hem tape for this as well, because this is gonna bulk up a bunch. So I have to cut into the seam allowance like this, which is gonna destroy the overlock, and to, you know, have everything a tiny bit neater and less fraying and stuff, I'm just gonna glue it down with hem tape. So now that the pockets are prepared, I can go ahead and place them, and I'm just gonna align them on the dart like this. And you can find the placement of the actual pocket on the pattern piece of the back piece. So what you want to do is to check the height of the pocket itself and go from there. And I'm just gonna copy that placement over there to the other side to have an even result. You can barely see them, but I'm going to attach the pockets with like a jean stitch. So I will measure where I'm gonna start, because I don't want to have like a flap that's just gonna open like this. Like I want to start sewing somewhere up here so that this is fixed in place. And it's probably the best to start at like 6 centimeters measured from the dart. So like right here and right here. Then I have a 12 centimeter pocket opening, which I think is fine for my hands and my phone and stuff. And then I can do like a very close stitch to the border, to the corner right here, until here, and then do another one like 5 millimeters next to the first stitch and have the pocket fixed in place that way. So now that the pockets are in place, you can barely see them, but you know, they're there. I actually quite like the look, the subtle look. I'm not gonna do like any embellishments that I was thinking about previously. I tried out like sewing a pearl border around here and I didn't quite like it. I undid it and I think I'm just gonna leave it as is, and you and me, we're gonna know that there are pockets here. Nobody else will. So let's continue with putting the skirt together. Let's close the side seams right here. I'm gonna overlock them and iron them towards the back. Let's do the hem facing. So we have this weirdly shaped piece right here, which is the front hem facing, and then we have two back hem facings. Make sure that you have the side seam and the center back seam in mind, because you need to put right sides of the side seams together with the front piece, like this, and close the side seams here. Let's iron the seam allowances open. You don't need to overlock these, as we're gonna hide them in between like the wrong sides of the fabric. So just iron these open. And we can already overlock the upper seam right here in one go. And with that done, we can now put right sides together of the facing onto the skirt itself, line all of the notches, all of the seams right here to be able to sew the hem facing onto the skirt. Let's sew the hem facing. I will go ahead and understitch the facing here, as it's like a really thick fabric now and it's just gonna lay nicer. You understitch by putting the seam allowance towards the facing and then very closely to the previous seam. You're gonna top stitch basically the seam allowance onto the facing, and that's just gonna make it really easy to iron everything how it's gonna supposed to lay, which means the ditch of the seam only visible on the facing side. Okay, now you have to cut towards the stitching line right here. Otherwise you're not going to be able to turn everything right sides out, especially with the heart also ending right there. Now we can iron the facing nicely towards the wrong side of the fabric. And it's super easy with the understitching. It's just going to lay exactly how you want it to lay, like this. And now, I mean, you can see that the facing of the hem is gonna overlap with the holes that we already did. You can see clear here. So obviously we need to change that. And we do that by just cutting off the facing like this. And you can do a few things here. So either you can just fold it towards the inside and use hem tape to fix everything in place. You can top stitch it in place, you can hand sew it in place, you can overlock it again. I think it's going to be a bit hard to overlock right there, but you can overlock these pieces right here and, you know, do anything of what I just mentioned to fix that in place. What I will be doing is to just add a bit of hem tape to fix it in place here, like this. And this is like very, very small, the bridge from one side to the other. So I'm going to add like top stitches right here, a bar tack to keep this together. Otherwise you're just gonna risk this ripping off and ripping apart. So I'll do the same for this side here. So I decided to add this little bow detail here, and I think that's gonna stabilize this section of the skirt as well. And it looks really, really cute. So this is what I did. I used some satin band and just folded it like this and like this. And I'm just gonna add a little stitch right here through the middle to fix everything in place. And to cinch the bow in, I'm actually going to just like knot a thread like a thicker thread around it. That's not going to be visible. It's just going to help the bow look nicer and sit nicer at the end. For the middle section, I'm just going to take another piece of the satin band, which I'm going to cut like this short. And that piece I'm going to wrap around both the bow and the skirt so that it is one, fixed in place, and two, also, you know, the bow has a nice finish on the middle section right there. And on the other side, the wrong side of the skirt, I'm going to just fold the satin band towards the inside and just use a normal whip stitch to fix everything in place. So let's tackle the waistband. We have two sets of waistbands, so the outer and the facing. So let's put the side seams of the waistband together on both sides. Just as we did with the hem facing, we're gonna sew the side seams here and iron them open. You don't have to overlock. And we're gonna do the same for the facing. So this right here is the facing. So we're gonna put that aside and take the outer piece right here, where we're going to iron the seam allowance up into the piece as preparation to put it onto the skirt in a second. And now with that prepared, we can put right sides of the facing and the outer waistband together to close the upper edge right here. So align the side seams, the center front and the center back. Sew up here the waist seam. Okay, now I understitched the seam and I can go ahead and turn the waistband right sides out and iron the waist seam as well, making sure that the ditch of the seam is only visible on the facing side as usual, like this. I like to just iron right on top as well. I realized I did a mistake. You cannot iron the seam allowance of the outside towards the inside, because if you want to add a zipper to the back, you need a full shell basically. And if you iron the shell side towards the inside of the waistband, then you automatically have to sew the facing onto your skirt, which leaves you with a mismatched center back seam like shell, and then all of a sudden it's the facing that sits on there and you cannot put the zipper on. So we have to switch this around and iron the seam allowance of the facing towards the inside. Otherwise this just won't work. And now we can put the waistband onto our skirt. Putting right sides together, matching up the center front and both the waistband and the skirt, then the side seam. And you're also going to find notches for the dart in the waistband. Since this is like a very curvy seam or edge, it can make it easier to just pin the notch onto your dart as well right here. Same goes to the back. And we can now sew the waistband onto the skirt. Gonna iron the seam allowance into the waistband, and then we can already go ahead and put the zipper in. So I'm gonna take my zipper right here, I'm gonna open it, and with the facing of the waistband folded upwards, I'm gonna put right sides together, making sure that when I fold the upper edge right here, this point is going to sit right at the fold line of my waistband. That's gonna assure that everything's gonna look neat and tidy. You're not going to have like weird gaps or anything like that once you close the zipper. And without stretching anything, I'm going to pin the zipper all the way down to the zipper notch. And I'm going to sew from up here all the way to the zipper notch. I'm going to use pins to mark the upper edge right here and also the waist seam and the zipper point down here. And now once I open this, I can transfer this onto the other side and just transfer, with the help of the needles, the position of the zipper band. My cat is crying. Let's transfer the position of the zipper with the help of the needles to the other side here. And now I can also sew this side of the zipper in place. And now once we close this, everything lines up really nicely, and we can go ahead and close the remaining center back seam all the way down to the facing all in one go. So just match up the facing seam down here and then also the zipper notch right here and close this. Okay, what we're gonna do here for our waistband is to fold your zipper right where the stopper ends. You wanna fold it towards the raw edge and then fold the waistband facing right on top of the zipper band and fix everything in place with a needle. And what I actually like to do is just keep this pre-ironed fold in place, put it like just over the seam here, the ditch of the seam, and then you can just sew right over this. Once you turn this right sides out, this is gonna lay nicer on the waistband here. And what I'm gonna do now, as you can see, the seam is already prepared, so this is gonna lay really nicely on top, is to cover my waist seam with the waistband facing. And now I can go ahead and sew either, so there are like two options. You can either try to stitch in the ditch right here to fix the waistband in place, or you can stitch right next to the ditch on the waistband. And that is what it looks like with the waistband on. And with that, the skirt is done. Now I have like this on the inside. I'm contemplating whether I should add a lining, but now that the waistband is already in, it's kind of hard to add that. I would have to undo that seam that I just did. So I don't think that I will be doing that, especially also with the hard cutout. That would be annoying to put the lining in place. So I think I'm just gonna leave it, but obviously you always have the option to line the skirt if you have like a weird inside, but I don't think that it will be necessary. And that is the completed skirt. And that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm super happy with the outcome of the skirt. I think it looks so cute with the hearts and the bows and everything and the pattern on the fabric itself. I can't wait to finish the whole outfit and, you know, put this on for the festival in 2 weeks time. So super excited. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you'll get notified every time that I post. I post on Sundays, so you can keep an eye out for that. Next week I will be doing the heart-shaped top for this 2-piece set for my festival outfit. So that will be also super exciting. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please go ahead and check out my social media. I am posting loads of reels all about my projects, so if you're interested in that, hit follow there. The most direct way to support me and keep videos just like this one coming is to head over to my Etsy store, where you can also find the pattern of this skirt and so many other patterns that all have video tutorials to them. So anything that you can find here on my channel does have a pattern, and vice versa. Another way to support me is through the channel membership. Thank you so much to all of my channel members. If you consider becoming a member with exclusive benefits, go check out the link in the description box down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to see you next Sunday. Bye guys!